friends. I am walking outside right now with my little garden starts that we are working on hardening off. And so today's video is going to be really short. I'm going to give you a quick garden update and tell you a few of the things that I have learned so far gardening here on my patio in Colorado, where the temperatures kind of yo-yo all over the place. So let me flip you around here. Believe it or not, these little guys have actually gotten a little stronger being outside here the last couple days. I started them in the late evening and I'm now working them up a little bit earlier into the afternoon. However, the temperatures tonight are supposed to get down really cold, so I'm gonna have to watch and see if it starts raining here. Those pots do not have drainage holes in them, or the plastic clamshell does not have a drainage hole because I've been just watering on the surface. So if it starts to rain, we're gonna have to pull them in. It's a little iffy, but I can't bank on it here in Colorado because no matter what the forecast says, it tends to do something different. Now, the pots that we have here, the first plants that I did outside have actually done really, really well, and they ended up sprouting with snow. The very first thing that I have learned in my garden starts this year is that though, yes, you can use egg cartons to start, the egg cartons tend to dry out super quickly. And the root systems for some of the things like the Brussels sprouts just were not getting enough moisture. So I ended up having to transplant them into that clamshell. And then also, starts don't do awesome if you have to take them up to higher altitude and back down with you, which we did on a trip to Breckenridge because I didn't want to leave them here and not watered and tended for a couple days several weeks ago. So we brought them up with us, but they are very stressed. Thankfully, almost all of them have recovered. The tricky part is we have been using our just natural light here in front of our balcony door because we're southern facing window, so we get lots and lots of light, which is great for the starts. I didn't think we would need a grow light, and honestly we don't for the amount of light that the plants need. The trouble is that the sun gets so intense coming through here that I have to kind of shade them a little bit during the day, or they get stressed out really easily because they hadn't been hardened off yet. And so there was this tricky balance of making sure they get enough light versus hardening them off. So if you have a window that's just as intense, I highly recommend using a grow light so that when you're needing to expose them to sunlight for the first time, you actually can do it through the hardening off process versus stressing them out. Thankfully, they have recovered, all of them, with just loving on them, seeing what the issue was, making sure they get enough water and shading them. Our last average frost date is not until the middle of May. And so I have been having to do a lot of starts indoors. We just got our tomatoes going and our tomatillo starts, or seeds in early this week. But the clamshell, or I repotted things, has some of my cool winter crops and then a couple of warmer winter crops, which is why I'm having to watch them a little bit. And I'm getting slightly nervous in the coming days. I'm going earlier in the hardening off process instead of moving later and overnight to the morning hours, which would be my preference. But because there is basil and oregano planted in there and they're not quite ready to go outside yet, they're not frost tolerant, I am going to have to make sure those keep getting pulled in. And then thankfully later towards this weekend, we're supposed to have some warmer evenings that aren't as chilly. Like tonight we have a winter weather advisory. So when it's not as chilly, I'll be able to leave that basil and oregano out a little bit too. They won't be getting repotted, but they'll be hardened off already a little bit and just be strong. As they've grown enough that they can handle that, I think, but not so much that they can be repotted and risk the potential for a frost and not giving them the ideal soil temperatures that they need either. So friends, if you have any tips on growing on altitude, growing. We're not that high, we're on the Front Range, so we're at 5,600 feet-ish, right where we're at. But still some different challenges, especially with the intense sunlight we get here at that altitude. So let me know your favorite tips that you have learned, and I look forward to giving you an even better update in the coming weeks. All right, friends, take care. Until next time, cheers.